Good afternoon. I'm Lauren Sonnenberg with LifeCore, and welcome to this week's edition of Mind Body Talk on chronic pain. And if you're new to Mind Body Talk on chronic pain, give us a little shout out, put your name or put a comment in the comment box, and let us know how you heard about Mind Body Talk. So today we're going to be talking about 3 ways to empower yourself when you have an invisible illness. So really quick, for those people who don't know what this is, perhaps you're somebody with invisible illness and you're sharing it with a family member or a significant other who you're hoping that they will come to understand this more. Ultimately, people with invisible illnesses, and that's why we're talking about it under the chronic pain umbrella, because a lot of chronic pain, you're looking at a person and you can't actually see what's going on inside of them. It's not that they're wearing a brace or they're not on crutches and they're not in a wheelchair. It's hard to see that there's something going on for that person, and they may not be feeling optimally. They may not be feeling well at all. They may be putting on a good face and showing up and getting through their day, or they may not be, but ultimately you don't really know what's going on just by looking at them on the surface. So invisible illnesses weigh heavy on the minds of many people who experience that, because it's a different social experience than for somebody who you can say, oh, I can see what's going on for that person. I can see why this may be more challenging or that may be more challenging, or why they may be tired. And so why else are we talking about this today? A big reason why it falls under this umbrella of Mind Body Talk is because when you're dealing with this type of emotional concern and it's weighing heavy on your mind, dealing with the judgments or expectations of others and or your own that you put upon yourself, this is a conflict for some people. And at the very least, it's a stressor, and oftentimes it's an ongoing stressor. And so I'm not going to go heavy into any science. A lot of times I talk about GNM or German New Medicine science, but the one thing I will say is when we are dealing with stresses and conflict, that can interrupt our healing. And so we want to minimize as much as possible of that so that we can allow a person to go forward and be able to feel as good as possible. So physical symptoms are actually, they're enough to bear without having to deal with these extra layers and levels of people not understanding what you're going through, expectations, judgments like I spoke of before. And also, if we have ways to feel empowered when we're dealing with a long-term invisible illness or chronic illness, that feels better than feeling like a victim, having a victim mindset, because, all right, it's enough to deal with the physical symptoms as they are. We don't want to compound that on top with all these other layers of emotional weight and burden to deal with as well. Those are complicating factors. They're compounding factors that get in the way, and we want to make this pathway as smooth as possible for a person. So the first 2 items that I'm going to talk about today are going to be helped by the third one. So you might have heard of the first and second one that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to venture to say in advance that if you have, you might say, well, it feels good for a couple minutes when I do that, but it kind of wears off. And that's why we want to talk about the third one as well today, which is going to help make 1 and 2 stick and stay and be more effective for you. So number 1 on our list, and I'm going to give number 1 and 2 to you in advance and then go in detail. Number 1 is the self-talk that people have, especially around expectations they place on themselves. This is a biggie. Okay. Number 2 is dealing with the expectations and judgments of other people. And then the third one we're going to get to. So the reason we're working on all of this, as I mentioned, is to really, overall, is to put the power back in your hands, in your mind and body. This is where the power needs to be. And it's so easy in life, whether you're dealing with a chronic illness, an invisible illness, or something not related to physical symptoms at all, to give our power away. And that is a slippery slope that we can go down very quickly. And we don't want to go down that path. It's not going to serve anybody well at all. This is about finding your strength so that you can be at least emotionally in an optimal place to deal with your physical symptoms. That's the first rung here. So let's talk about some of these self-talk. Let's talk about some of these expectations, that might be placed on the self. All right. Well, what might it be? A lot of times they're shoulds. I should be able to climb those stairs without having to stop 3 times, or I should be able to climb them at all. Or I should be able to fold that load of laundry, or I should feel well enough to go to my kid's soccer game, or I should feel well enough to go out on date night or to go dancing, or whatever it may be that you want to do. So the first thing we need to do with that is to take that should and put it into pieces, 2 pieces. One, let's break away the piece, which is the desire, and the want piece. Let's put that in one category. There's nothing wrong. I couldn't make you get rid of that desire, nor do I want you to get rid of it, nor would it serve you to. You can't make people's desire go away. You can handle it, but you can't make it go away. So don't try to push that desire down. That's going to be painful. Of course you want to go to your kid's baseball game. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? So we can't make that go away. It's like, I've heard this analogy before, when you push the ball into the water, of course it's going to want to pop back up. You can't do that. So it's not going to be helpful for you to kind of push that desire away. But we want to break it out of the should. Just break that should down entirely. That should's not going to help you at all. We're going to use different self-talk. I would like to be able to do that. Yes. And that desire is a beautiful desire. Now put that on the shelf here. Okay. Now the other part is the comma, but I can't do it today. I can't do it right now. I can't do it this hour or this minute or this year. And that's the painful part. And that's the part we're going to put on this shelf, and we're going to deal with that in part 3, but also a little bit right now. Okay. So just by breaking it into those 2 pieces is more powerful, more empowered self-talk. Feel for a moment the difference between I should be able to do all the dishes and all the housework today, or this week, or this month. And that feeling of, but I don't have the energy to do it. Okay? That does not feel good. I'm not a mind reader. I just know already, I work with people with chronic pain, chronic illness. I see what people post in groups. I see what people put in my group, Chronic Pain Mind Body Empowerment group, a small but growing group. You are welcome to join, by the way. It's free. So when you break it down like that, so we're taking away that desire, putting it over here, and honoring the desire. I want you to just honor the desire. Honoring the desire feels better than I should be, okay? Honor your desire. I can't do it today is not the same as I'll never be able to get it done. It's not the same as I can do part of it, or maybe one little thing, or just maybe I can't, and accepting that I can't do it today, this week, this year. Okay. So we're taking and breaking down the pieces, but we want to add in a layer of nurturing self-talk as well. I mean, just doing that alone is a very nurturing way to look at it. What would the most nurturing parent kind of dialogue, what would the most nurturing parent say to you if you were trying to push yourself past your comfortable boundaries? You know you're going to pay for it later. You're going on adrenaline overdrive. You're going to pay for it later if you go past what you know is going to work for you that day. And you're trying to push past you want to reach those expectations you placed upon yourself. Well, that nurturing parent that I'm saying that you need to create within yourself to bring about relief, emotional relief, would be saying, you know what, it's okay. You are perfectly fine the way you are today, as you are. There's no book that said you needed to get this accomplished. You must get this accomplished. Otherwise, you're not a good spouse, parent, child, friend, on and on down the list, worker, colleague. That needs to come out of the vocabulary, that inner vocabulary in your mind, for you to start to feel better. And you might be able to start practicing that, and you might start to feel the shift from that. And maybe you already are doing some of this. As I said before, if you have tried some of these techniques and then it doesn't seem to stick and stay, stick around, because part 3 is really going to talk about a way that's going to make it stick and stay. Okay. I'm not going to go over every single possible self-talk scenario or every single expectation you've placed upon yourself, obviously, because that would be broad and varied. It would take a long time. Number 2, the second way out of changing our self-talk and becoming more nurturing in our self-talk is how we handle the expectations and judgments of others. Now, sometimes those judgments are spoken out loud. Sometimes people are mocked, they're belittled, they're put down. Sometimes it's jokingly done, sometimes not so jokingly done, but always with this tone of, well, you look okay, you should be okay. What's really wrong with you? Are you just using this as an excuse? So you don't have to do blah, 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 and everything in between. Okay. Probably some more extreme and less extreme. Okay. Sometimes it's not said at all. Sometimes it's a look. Oh, why are you taking so long to get out of your car? I would really like to get out of my car, because you're parked alongside of the person, whatever it is, whatever the scenario. Why can't you walk the shopping cart faster? Why can't you get out of the house and go do the shopping, for example? So many things. Why can't you go make money? All these spoken and unspoken expectations and judgments that are then experienced by the person with the invisible illness. All right, so what do we do with those to soften that? And soften is definitely the word. It actually is a word that helps with a lot of things. When we think the word soften, it helps to begin to take the edge off, but that's not my solution here. What I'm going to ask you to do here is, it's something that it's going to be easier to do when you have number 3. Okay, but I'm going to say number 2 first. This may be too big of a leap for people right away, and other people might be, okay, I'm there with you, Lauren, I got it. I'd like to give, I don't like to scare people away, but I like to give people techniques and tools that are really going to work. So I tend to shy away from just really topical kind of little tips. I go for the big stuff here. So if you're not ready for this, table it. And if you're ready to look here, then great. Okay. When people are putting those expectations and judgments upon you, or at least you think they are, sometimes it's evident that they are, what we need to do to take the wind out of the sails there is to really look inwards, because I guarantee you that if you did not have a fraction or a shred of that expectation that you put upon yourself, or some judgment that you're harboring, it would be like water off a duck's back if you were hearing that and experiencing it. You know, one that I've used with like so many of my clients over the years, and to the point where we laugh about it sometimes, is, you know, if somebody called you a purple elephant, you would, I mean, maybe if you're in kindergarten, it might bother you, but most people are like, not even insulted by that. They think it's funny, okay? If somebody called you a purple elephant, okay, whatever. Because it's meaningless, okay? If somebody called you you're a frisbee, whatever. I mean, they're trying to think of something totally crazy and benign. Um, you wouldn't give it the time of day. You'd be like, what? But when people start slinging the lead around that really hurts, we know it hurts. We feel it, and it's because we feel it most strongly when we are harboring and believing a little bit of it to be true, even if it's a tiny, tiny little bit. But maybe you've built up so much cognitive strength and have really good self-talk in place that helps you to counter that. But emotionally, see, this is where this is why we feel it, even when the cognitive self-talk is there, even when that positive self-talk is there, that nurturing self-talk, is because there's a piece of us that feels it. And so you could say, well, Lauren, how do I remove that self-judgment that I have? How do I remove that expectation that's being mirrored to me by all these other people in my life around me, or even maybe just mirrored by one person, but you feel it pretty strongly because it's somebody whose opinion you care about, or you just care about the person in general and you don't want them to think that about you. We have to go in and look at our view of ourselves. We have to see where our beliefs have come from and where our limiting beliefs have derived from, okay? And so how we do this, how we put one and two, how we really get self-talk and dealing with expectations and judgments that we've placed on ourselves and those we have heard and experienced because of other people, we can catch that emotional part of ourself up to that cognitive part that we've put in place, some of that more positive self-talk and insight about, okay, well, maybe I'm really reacting to that because a big part of me, you know, they say, you know, I should be able to do that. Well, but I want to be able to do that. So when that's a normal response. So if we can get down to the nitty-gritty, okay, and we use two tools, okay. They fall under the energy therapy umbrella. It's EFT, emotional freedom techniques, also known as tapping, because we're tapping at various acupressure points while we're saying phrases specific to the issue that we're targeting, okay? Very specific. We get down to specific events and specific aspects of those events. And then there's also matrix reimprinting, where we go into events and allow ourselves to clear out the negative emotions involved in those events and look at where our limiting beliefs have come from and allow shifts to occur and healing to occur and new experiences to be imprinted where the old ones were. And I'm not giving you the full scope of either of these right now, I'm just giving you some beginner's overview of them. And when we go and use those tools, and I use those in conjunction with psychotherapy because I'm a psychotherapist, we use those and we can allow the emotional part to catch up with our cognitive part, the mindset part, our thoughts, okay? And this is where you see the magic happen. This is where you start to be relieved of constantly dealing with negative emotional experiences around your invisible illness. And this does lead us to, I know we talked about 3 ways to empower yourself, but ultimately, when you're using these tools, you're also going to be able to address the emotional pieces that are actually affecting your physical well-being as well. And I would use that knowledge in conjunction with German New Medicine, which is a mind-body science, which explains why we have all diseases. And in fact, you would redefine them not as disease, but as functional responses of the body. And I talk about that. I've talked about that in other mind-body talks, and I will continue to. So I'm not going to get into that science today, but to say that really another way to empower yourself is to be in the know that there are ways that have not yet really hit mainstream in the way that so many things are known and used in conventional medical applications and in conventional medical science. But they are becoming more and more well known. They're used by more and more therapists, more and more doctors, more and more nurses, physician's assistants, chiropractors, mental health therapists, on and on. You name it. People are becoming aware of this. There's really a transformation that's occurring. So the old school thought of, I have this chronic illness or this invisible illness, and I will never be able to feel any improvement. I ought to just stick with where I'm at and never believe that I can feel better. I cannot stand here and promise you and say, if you go and do those things and you do that in XYZ number of sessions, that you'll magically have 100% improvement. That's not how it works. There are many people who have transformed their lives and no longer deal with the physical symptoms that they had before. And there are people who have gotten 25%, 50%, 75%, or somewhere in between improvement in their symptoms. And every single person, I'm not just talking about my clients, I'm talking about people who use mind-body sciences and energy therapies and other therapies as well. And when people do, and they use it consistently and persistently, meaning I don't just try it once with an unskilled practitioner and expect that I'm going to have miraculous results. Or I don't just I follow one video online and I think, well, it didn't work, so it's not going to work for me. No, I'm talking about really digging in deep, and even if you don't necessarily start off with the belief that you can see improvements and relief, that you're open to it. That's all it takes, is openness. It doesn't take full-on belief, because that's part of the work that we do in healing, is to help people overcome their limiting beliefs. And some of that has to do with, I don't know if I 100% believe I can feel better. And that's normal, and that's okay. So I hope that today prompted some questions for you. I hope it also open some doors to show you that there are ways. And I don't think that with any of the topics we talked about, that just by listening to me talk about them for 20 some minutes, that you're going to have a full handle on them and know how to apply them fully. That's why I do invite you to reach out to a skilled practitioner. I work with people via phone and video. And so you are welcome to schedule a free wellness consultation with me, and we can talk about how I may be able to help you. Or if you're a person who wants to work with somebody in person, you can reach out to me too. I'll see if there's somebody I know in your area that we can pair you with and make sure that we put you on the pathway to feeling better. And you're also welcome to join my free mind-body, chronic pain mind-body empowerment group. The link is in the post description. So if you see this on replay and you have gotten some benefit from this, click the little like or the heart symbol and let us know that you've watched. Put a comment below, and I thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.